way down at the end?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw him last night. I knew it probably that was them. We were all sitting, getting away from the lightning. We were all standing in the back.
That is only like the second time y'all got together,
Second
right?
time, yeah, second time. It's interesting.
It is, I was gonna say that.
Next week's the police,
Oh,
What
you
happened to
going to his
police?
house?
and everybody better put their guns up.
Back into my house, I live in, not in the city.
Over there where you live the other part of the time, your other house.
Oh, that one.
That house, uh-huh. All right, let's see if we can turn it. There's always house. We shall begin.
No, I will just start the meeting. He'll move back.
It's 2:00. I'm calling the meeting of Code Enforcement Board for the City of Tarpon Springs to order for August 18th, 2016. Mr. Trask, if you'd lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Our Heavenly Father, send down your blessing on this meeting of the Code Enforcement Board and upon the individual members who comprise it. Give the board members a clear sense of duty and lead them to a faithful discharge of the same. Direct them in their deliberations at this meeting so that all things may be done to the glory of thy name and the welfare of the people of Tarpon Springs. This we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bobby, could you please give us roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Zaleski,
Here.
Mr. Demasis,
Here.
Ms. Casey,
Here.
Mr. Kramer,
Here.
Mrs. Archer,
Here?
Mr. Sherry,
Here.
Miss Allen. Here. Mr. Bergman.
Here.
Mrs. Dabbs.
Also at this time, I'd like to welcome the newest board member, Linda Allen, to the Tarpon Springs Code Enforcement Board. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, it is the intention of this board to promote, protect, and improve the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Tarpon Springs by providing an equitable, effective, and inexpensive method of enforcing various codes within the city of Tarpon Springs. Any aggrieved party may appeal a final administrative order of this board to the circuit court. Such appeal shall be filed within 30 days of the execution of the order to be appealed. Florida Statute 286.0105 requires any party appealing a decision of this board to have a record of the proceedings to support such an appeal. The procedure of this board is as follows. First, the city presents its witnesses and exhibits, after which the alleged violator is able to ask the city's witnesses any specific questions regarding their testimony. Secondly, the alleged violator is allowed to make a presentation and present his or her witnesses and exhibits. Then the city can ask questions of the alleged violator's witnesses. After both rounds of testimony, both on the part of the city and on the part of the alleged violator, each party is asked to give a closing argument, first by the city and then by the alleged violator. After these three steps are taken, this board will close the public hearing portion of the case to discuss it and make appropriate action. Before we begin the public hearing, we will have all potential witnesses to stand up and be sworn in by the secretary of the board. So if you are going to be a witness or you are going to come and say anything whatsoever, you need to stand and be sworn in.
All right. You raise your right hand. Okay. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Stephen.
Please turn off all cell phones or put them on silent. Okay, today our first case is 1907 Lexington Place. Go ahead, sir.
Afternoon. This is case number 16-800-00193. The property address is 1907 Lexington Place. It's a SunTrust Mortgage Incorporated. It's the listed property owner. We have 10 exhibits for it, which we're going to present to the board now, so you guys can review them, and then I'll go through the remainder of the case.
Is there anyone here present for this case in reference to this case? Okay, thank you.
On May 25th of this year, I conducted the initial inspection. The original complaint was the lot was overgrown, needs to be mowed. Upon my inspection, that appeared to be true. It was overgrown, needed to be mowed, edged, and trimmed. I took photographs. Those are Exhibit 1 that is going around at this point. On May 26th of 16, we issued a courtesy letter. It was mailed first class, Exhibit number 2. On June 11th, I conducted a reinspection and there was no change. On June 13th, we issued a notice of violation and it was mailed first class, return receipt requested, and obtained a return receipt signed. That's Exhibit 3 and 4. They were mailed to the, all the notices were mailed to the listed property owner according to Pinellas County tax collector and property appraiser's website. On June 29th, I re-inspected the property and there was no change, but found there was a pool on the property. I obtained permission from the neighbor to the, if you're looking at the house, it'd be to the left. I was able to go up their driveway and see that the pool was not being maintained. So we issued an amended notice of violation on July 5th of this year to include the violation with the pool. And also at that time, the notice of hearing was issued. Both those documents were mailed via first class, return receipt requested. That's Exhibit 5, 6, and 7 going around at this time. As I stated before, all the notices were sent to the listed property owner. I have not received any contact, email, mail, or by voice from the property owner. On July 28th, I posted the property. That's Exhibit number 8. On August 17th, I conducted a reinspection. There's no change, and it's still not in compliance. That would be Exhibit number 9. The last exhibit going around is just some administrative documents, summary of our computer system showing all my notes that I've entered. Currently, I find the property to be in violation of City Codes 822, which is the accumulation of trash and debris. Should be noted, and you can probably see it in the pictures in the driveway, there's a large amount of, it looks like tree debris, like somebody's been trimming the trees, but they've been piling it up in the driveway. There's a truck in the driveway, it doesn't belong to the property. I ran the tag on it, it belongs to a neighbor. Apparently, they're just using the free parking. And then basically it's the grass and the weeds, and as I stated, the pool was basically black. It is screened in, but it is very unsanitary. Continuing on, Section 840, City Code, duty of maintenance of private property, which includes mowing the yard and the pool, which coincides with 852, which are the nuisance conditions defined for 840.
When the pictures and the evidence get down to you, Bob, would you please put them in evidence?
Yes, sir.
And we're trying out a new system, so you guys are getting all the pictures at the beginning. Hopefully you have an opportunity to review them, and we'll just have some stale time while we're waiting on everybody to review them. Yes, it was originally a neighbor complaint.
The limbs and all that are in the driveway, do they appear to be from that property, or is somebody using that property for a dump? I mean,
Unknown.
did you notice any freshly
It appears
cut,
some of the trees
trimmed
had been trimmed, so I wouldn't be surprised if a neighbor's been kind of trying to help a little bit, but they just decided to put the branches back
Okay.
on their own property. Because I believe if you look at one of the first pictures and the second picture, there's a couple of the trees that look like they had the branches trimmed back, so.
Okay.
It's only an assumption, though.
All right.
I noticed on one of the green cards that it's addressed to Bennett's, that,
I'd have to look at the card itself.
in the exhibit.
Right here.
Oh, it was an old tax collector listing, so we covered the base by sending it to them as well.
Okay, but it, as far as we know, it's the
SunTrust.
Sunset.
Yeah,
Bank.
SunTrust Mortgage LLC,
Okay.
or Incorporated, I'm sorry. And I happen to know one of the neighbors, and they said the folks that live there, they've been long gone, and the bank took it over, and,
Thank you.
you know.
Does the board have any other questions of the city at this time?
Yeah. You didn't hear anything from the bank at all?
Nothing at all, ma'am.
I have a concern with the pool itself, and I know it's probably not a violation that I know of, but when you have a pool and a property that's been abandoned for a while and there's water in it, that's a liability not only for the SunTrust, but everybody else around it. When kids get involved in that, and I know the pool's in bad shape and all, but it's also a breeding ground for a whole bunch of other things. That's my main concern here, so just to make that point.
I'd like to make
Any other questions of the board for the city? Would anybody like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay, do you want
Wanda?
to go for it?
I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in law, that at the time of the alleged violations, sections 8-22, 8-40, and 8-52 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs were in force. The respondent has until the 19th day of September 2016 to come into compliance with the code sections, or a fine of $100 per day shall be imposed for each day thereafter that the respondent remains in violation of said code section.
Second.
Second. Do we have any discussion?
What was the fine amount? I didn't hear.
$100 per day after the
Okay,
19th
got
of
it.
September.
Got it.
Any other comments?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is there anything that possibly could be done with that water that's still stagnant in that pool because of the things that are going on with mosquitoes?
At this point, once the board does their hearing, we would have to move forward with abatement procedures. So it would go through an abatement process. This is step one of that, and then we have to determine. Otherwise, I can't trespass on their property. So.
Any other discussion? Do we have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Charrier?
Yes.
Ms. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
Yeah.
Mr. DeMassis?
Yes.
Mr. Splesky?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, case number 2, Athens Street, vacant lot. Is there anyone here representing this property? Okay.
Afternoon, this is case number 1680000201. This is a vacant lot that's on Maragos, which is almost an alley off of Athens Street. It had been a house many years ago. The actual physical address is 537 Maragos Street. It's owned by Leonardo's family. We'll be once again passing around a packet if there's nobody here for the property. Originally on June 1st of this year, I received an initial complaint that the lot obviously was vacant. It's overgrown, has trash on it. There's a shed on the west side of the property in very poor, dilapidated condition. And the wall out front, which is it's kind of a stone, an older stone brick wall, almost a retaining wall, because the property itself has a couple of concrete steps going up to it, so it's about 3 feet above street level. Parts of the wall were breaking away, and there was loose cinder blocks and things. That was my first inspection, and I didn't have any photographs on the initial one at that time. So we issued a courtesy letter on June 2nd of this year. That's exhibit number 1. I conducted a reinspection on June 16th. There was no change to the property at all. On June 16th, we also submitted and sent a notice of violation via first class with a return receipt requested. And the exhibit number 2 and 3 are going to be the certified letter and the return receipt. On July 4th, we conducted a reinspection. The shed's still on the property. It's in very poor condition and is obviously a safety hazard. There's still some vines over the shed which need to be removed. The lot had been mowed, and most of the trash had been picked up, and most of the loose brickwork had been kind of taken care of. So at this point, my only real issues were the shed, some of the vines and stuff that were growing on the trees. On July 5th, we issued the notice of hearing, which was mailed first class, return receipt requested, which is the return receipt. We did not get a return receipt back on either of them. The first one showed that it was unclaimed, and the second one we didn't get anything back. That's exhibit 4 and 5. All the notices that I mentioned were sent to the listed property owner via the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector's website. I did have contact with the owner a couple of times via email and via phone. My last conversation with him was actually yesterday, and I'll get into that in just a little bit. I went back out on July 28th and posted the property, which is exhibit number 6. And on yesterday, on reinspection, the shed's still there. There's been some work done to it. The vines have been cleaned up, and primarily there's still a little bit of broken area around the front wall, and I did take some additional photos of that, which is exhibit number 7. As I stated, I talked to the owner. I talked to him on the phone. He lives in Palm Beach. He's been up working on it. He's actually supposed to be up this weekend. He asked the board to give him 30 days. There's some legal issues. Apparently, the property used to have a standing house on it, and the city informed him many years ago that if they took the shed down, it changes the plat of that property. So by the shed still being there, they're able to relate to where the house was. But what he's doing is he's in the process of repairing it. And as I stated, some of the photos I took yesterday show the shed and a bunch of the boards are removed, and that's what he's doing, is he's replacing the structure itself. And he assured me it'd be done within 30 days if the board was kind enough to give him 30 days to take care of the problem. So at this point, the last exhibit in the packet is exhibit number 8, which again is just some administrative documents showing some of the related cases and my case summary. I found him in violation of duty and maintenance of private property, which covers that shed, the nuisance prohibitions that go along with it, and then 13302 for the applicability and the maintenance of the trees and stuff. And for the most part, as I stated, the trees were kind of taken care of. And like I stated, he says he'll have them all taken care of within 30 days.
You feel like he's gonna be able to get that shed repaired?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay.
Otherwise, he'll have to talk to me on the phone again.
So with a 30-day grace period, you feel it should be handled properly then?
He said he was coming up this weekend to take care of it. He's finishing up stuff where he lives in Palm Beach, and he'd already been up once and was taking care of it, and he said he'd be up again this weekend to take care of it. And he offered to actually try to make it up here and leave work, and I said I'd mention the 30 days to the board on his behalf.
Would you enter all that into evidence, Bobby, please?
Yes, sir.
Is there any questions from the board for the city? Would anybody like to make a
I'd like
motion?
to make a motion. I move, based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in law, that at the time of the alleged violation, sections 8-40, 8-52, and 133.02 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs were enforced. The respondent has until the 29th day of September 2016 to come into compliance with the code sections, or a fine of $50 per day shall be imposed for each day thereafter the respondent remains in violation of said code section.
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Could I have a vote, please?
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Charrier?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Ms. Vacacy?
Yes.
Mr. Demasis?
Yes.
Mr. Soblaski?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, our third case today is Rose Tree Lane, vacant lot. Anybody here in, all right, sir, would you please come over? You've already signed in. State your name and address, please.
Talking into the mic.
Okay. All right, if you would, you could sit down right there, sir. All right, officer.
Case number 16-8000-216, Rose Tree Lane, has a city physical address at 1029 Rose Tree Lane. It is a vacant property, parcel number 1427-15-283-36-000-050. Property owners are listed as Philip and Sherry Stringfellow. I have a packet of documentation. The gentleman here is the realtor for the property. And just to let the board know, I have spoke to the owners, and I'll have some discussion at the end about our conversation. Initially, or I'm sorry, he's...
Sir, do you have any objections to those documents and photos coming into evidence?
Not at all.
All right, thank you.
On June, well, I forgot my reader, so I gotta stretch my arms out. On June 8th of this year, I conducted the initial inspection based on a complaint about the property being overgrown, trees encroaching on the right-of-way, and some other trash and debris on the property. It's a vacant lot, which is in the city of Tarpon Springs, which has a square footage of greater than 10,000 square feet. The lot has numerous Brazilian pepper trees on it, also numerous vines suffocating and impeding on the other trees that are on the property. There's tree and other growth extending onto the roadway and onto the neighboring properties, both to the east and the west. There's trash and debris on the property, numerous cinder block pieces, yard debris. There's parts of what looks like an old pool slide, a tube. The fence on the south side and the west side is in very poor condition. It's covered with vines, pickets are missing, broken pieces, so on and so forth. Exhibit number 1 are the photographs that I took on that date. On June 8th, we sent a courtesy letter via first-class mail, which is exhibit number 2. On June 25th, I conducted a reinspection. There was no change to the property. On June 27th, a notice of violation was issued first class with a return receipt requested. Exhibits number 3 and 4 are both the letter, the notice of violation, and the return receipt, which was returned to sender. On July 16th, I conducted another reinspection with no changes. On July 19th, we issued the notice of hearing via first-class mail, return receipt requested. We once again got a return receipt, unclaimed, returned to sender. That's exhibit number 5 and 6. All the notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County tax collector and property appraiser's website. I did finally obtain or have contact with the owner. On July 18th, he advised he was going to hire somebody to take care of it, and then Mr. Ryder came into the office on August 15th to speak about the property. He was representing the owner and selling it. On July 28th, I posted the property, which is exhibit number 7, and yesterday I conducted a reinspection and actually met with Mr. Stringfellow and his wife, who was on site. They're about 75% done. He traveled down here. Sorry about that. He traveled down here from Arkansas, where he lives, and he's a construction worker up there, so he had to get time off. He just got the notice because originally there were some rather interesting parcel issues with that property, and he just found out he actually still owned it. Mr. Ryder can attest it's currently under contract, but he's trying to meet his obligation with the city to take care of all the violations, and he assured me he was pretty confident he would be done within a week. But once again, he asked the board, I offered him to present to you guys to give him 30 days so that he had enough time to complete it. It's a significant amount of work, and like I said, he's done about 75% of it in a fairly short period of time. And he asked me to meet with him again on Saturday while he was still down here working on it to hopefully he would be in compliance, but he just wanted that buffer just in case he had to go back to Arkansas to deal with issues. I don't know if that's gonna change anything that Mr. Ryder has to say, other than he presented to me that the property is under contract and should be sold as long as there's no issues with the contract. And so consequently, I did at this time the initial inspection and still find him in violation of 822, which is the accumulation of trash and debris on the property. 840, the duty of maintenance of private property. 852, which are the nuisance prohibitions under that. 12-1, which is state misdemeanors, which covers 369, 251, which are the invasive trees, aka the Brazilian pepper trees. 36.03, which deals with fences, walls, and hedges must be maintained in a good condition. And 133.02, which is the applicability and maintenance of trees for all properties in the city, and that covers the vines causing damage to the existing non-invasive trees that are on the property. And as I stated, he's out there working on it, and he seems to be doing a fairly good job. You can see in the pictures from the first shot to the ones I took yesterday, he's done a significant amount of work, so that's all I have.
When you get all the evidence, Bobby, could you put them in,
Yes, sir.
yes. Does anybody on the board have any questions for the city? Mr. Ryder, do you have any questions in reference to the city statements?
No, I do not.
Okay. At this time, you are allowed to make any statements or whatever that you would want the board to take into consideration, sir.
Thank you. Basically, last week I was notified that there was violations, and we started working on it latter part of last week. And then Mr. Stringfell and fellow and his wife came down, and we've been working on it since. I think it'll be done in a few days, but we're going to have a challenge with the weekend and getting trash removed into the dump. So we need extra time for that.
Okay.
But it's been an honest effort to get it corrected. And we do have it under contract, but it will not close until this is taken care of and also all the title work is done.
All right, do you feel that 30 days is enough as far as
I would think so.
cleaning up the title work and all that?
I would think so.
Okay. Does anybody on the board have any questions for Mr. Ryder? Would somebody like to make a motion?
Make a motion. I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violation, sections 8-22, 8-40, 8-52, and 12-1, 369.251 invasion of non-native plants, 36.03, and 133.02 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs were enforced. The respondent has until the 29th day of September 2016 to come into compliance with the code sections, or a fine of $50 per day shall be imposed for each day thereafter the respondent remains in violation of said code section.
Second.
Are there any discussions of the motion? Bobby, could I have roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Cherier?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Ms. Vacacy?
Yes.
Mr. DeMasis?
Yes.
Mr. Solesky?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Case number 4 has complied. Case number 5 is in reference to the property at 1723 Mandalay Drive. Is there anyone? Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience representing 1723 Mandalay Drive? If you would, please, ma'am, go ahead and have a seat. Give us your name and your address, please.
Alka Gupta, 1415 Jumana Loop, Apollo Beach, Florida.
Okay. Go ahead, officer.
This is case number 16-800-00291. It's before the board for the purpose of being a repeat violator. 1723 Mandalay Drive. The property's listed owner is Rolk Investments LLC, and my understanding is the lady here is co-owner of that company and hence testifying on their behalf. Once again, we'll be passing around a packet of some photos and things. Originally, my case started on July 16th, and then I'll get into the rest of it.
And do you have any objections to those documents being received into evidence?
No.
Thank you.
On July 16th of this year, I conducted the initial inspection. The complaint was the lot was overgrown. The structure appears to be in a partial state of construction and has been for many years. And there was an allegation that the permits had expired as far as the construction permits go on the property. I took photos on that first day. That's exhibit number 1. And this is going to be referenced, initially the property is before you now is in compliance. So I'm referring back to a 2014 case, which was 14-800-00759, which was what established the property as a repeat violator for a violation of sections 840, 852, 822, 6-1, 105.32. I bring before the board today the issue of maintaining the lawn. We found out permitting issues in the building and all has been taken care of. So that issue's basically out of the board's hands at this point. So moving forward, on July 19th of this year, issued a notice of hearing as a repeat violator, mailed first class with a return receipt requested. Exhibit number 3 and 4 is the notice of hearing and the return receipt. Exhibit number 2 is the prior case, and it should be of note, there is currently a lien on the property and a fine balance owed on the property. So moving forward, all the notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Tax Collector and the Property Appraiser's Database. I have received contact with the owner. I've spoke to the other half of the company a couple of times. And, you know, as soon as we contacted them, got the letter, they rapidly got out there and took care of the property. I basically found it in violation for a period of 5 days from the time I first inspected it on July 16th, and they went into compliance on July 21st. There was some conversation with the other half of the ownership that they went into compliance on the 19th. That's when his landscaper got out there. I kind of compromised because I didn't inspect it until I believe about the 23rd or 24th. I asked him to get me those dates. He didn't get me the dates by the time I did the notice, so I kind of split the difference and went for the 21st. So that's where I came up with the 21st as the compliance date. Moving forward on July 26th, I did conduct the reinspection. As I stated, it was in compliance, and I used the date of July 21st. July 28th, I posted the property for purposes of being a repeat violator. That's exhibit number 5. And then exhibit number 6 are just the administrative related documents to the case, the summary and the related cases, the priors, if you will. So as I stated, the property is a repeat violator from July 16th of this year to July 21st for city codes 840 and 852.
Any questions from the board for the city? Okay, ma'am, at this time, do you have any questions in reference to the city's statements?
No questions.
Okay. Any questions from the board for the, okay. At this time, if you would, you can make a closing statement.
She needs to present her case first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Present your case, please.
I I mean, just a couple of statements. I think as Officer Gaston mentioned, the house isn't under construction. We acquired it through, it was a bankrupt property, so it's taken us a little bit of time to get it up to this point, but we're at this point very close to completing the construction. We hope to move in December. And the office here, the permitting office, walked the property, I would say about 10 days ago, and they're very satisfied with the progress that we're almost getting to the completion point. So the grass, I think at that point we were actually the contractor that was working on it got pulled away on another project. So I think during that time is when the grass had overgrown. And it was honestly before we got the letter. I think we had already, before we had actually received the letter and knew about the fine, we had actually already taken care of the grass. So it was, had already been scheduled by the 19th. It was already done. So that's it. I mean, we hope to move in there very soon. So we'll keep it mowed at that point.
Any questions from the witness? So you are the actual owner and you will be moving in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We've put in several years, so definitely after all that work, absolutely.
Do you have closing statements, sir?
No, as I stated, the determination of the board as far as the date range is the only thing in question. I found her for 5 days to not be in compliance. I've had a few conversations with the owners. They seem sincere about taking care of it. They had some other issues with the house they had out of the city that caused them some problems, and that was the reason for the delay. So there was some mitigating factors and the reason why some things happened. So based on this, I personally don't necessarily feel it's going to be an issue moving forward. And I also know who to contact as well. So.
All right, thank you. Do you have a closing statement, ma'am?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. No questions from the board? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I will.
All right.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in law that the respondents were in violation of sections 8-40 and 8-52 of the Tarpon Springs City Code of Ordinances from July 16th, the initial inspection date, until compliance on July the 21st of 2016. A fine of $20 per day for 5 days is imposed for a total of $100.
Second that.
Okay, we have a first and second on that motion. Is there any discussion? Bobby, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Charrier?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Ms. Vacasie?
Yes.
Mr. Demasas?
Yes.
Mr. Sobleski?
Yes.
Your motion carries.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Okay. Case number 6 is a vacant lot on Sunset Drive. Anybody in the, all right, if you would please, ma'am, come up, sit down, state your name and your address, please.
Galotina Petru, 1905 Gulf Beach Boulevard, Tarpon Springs, Florida, 34689.
Thank you. Go ahead, officer.
As with the other cases, I have some paperwork for. Case number 1680000268. This is a vacant lot, the corner of Sunset and Riverside. It is right at the northeast corner of Sunset and Riverside, a little bit east of the middle school. Parcel number is 112715878786016010. And as before, as I stated, I have numerous photographs and some other paperwork that go with the case.
Ma'am, do you have any objections for those being received into evidence?
No.
Thank you.
On June 29th of this year, originally obtained a complaint about the lot being overgrown and conducted my initial inspection, found that the lot is overgrown. Basically, the lot's almost wholly consisting of Brazilian pepper trees on the property. and there was some other trash and debris on the property. There were numerous priors on the property as far as duty and maintenance of private property and taking care of it. That would be exhibit number 1, which is the photographs for that. On June 29th, we issued a notice of violation, mailed first class with return receipt requested, and we did give back a return receipt to that notice. That's exhibit number 2 and 3. On July 26th, I conducted a reinspection, and at that point, it was still not in compliance. I'm sorry, July 26th. Again, on July 26th, the notice of hearing was issued, mailed first class, and a return receipt requested. And we did not obtain a return receipt on that occasion. That's exhibit 4 and exhibit number 5. All notices were mailed via the property owners listed on the property appraiser, the Pinellas County tax appraiser or tax collector's website or database. I haven't spoke directly with the property owner, but I've spoke to the daughter who's present here today a few times, told us what was going on with the property and the work in progress on the property. On July 28th of this year, I posted the property, that's exhibit number 6. And on August 17th, conducted a reinspection and attached some photos, exhibit number 7. It's still in progress. When I checked it yesterday, probably somewhere around 60% done. The majority of the trees have been cut down. They had crews out there, have been working. It's been constantly being worked on for the last probably week or so. I drive by there all the time. And the last exhibit is exhibit number 8, which are the administrative documents that deal with prior cases and my summary notes. At the time, I find it in violation of City Ordinance 822, accumulation of trash and debris on private property. 840, the duty of maintenance of private property. 852, the nuisance prohibitions. 12-1, which is the reference to the state misdemeanor of 369-251, which is having an invasive species of plant, aka the Brazilian peppers, on your property. I have nothing further at this point.
Before we get any farther, I'm a little bit confused. I just want to make sure we're on the right case.
Yes, we
What
should
is your
be-
name again, ma'am? I'm sorry.
Acalotina Petro. But
Petro.
that's my mom. Rodia has left it to you, and Paul has left it to you.
All right, we're on the
They're
right
out of the country.
Yeah, I had to.
Okay.
I have.
All right, because we got
There's
3
properties
cases.
on Sunset Drive,
Okay.
and I reference this one as sometimes west or the corner.
All right, so
and
we
then the other
are
ones
on
are
the
far
right,
east one.
we
You
are
on the
on the
correct
right
one.
case.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
And I had to check on that too, so don't feel bad.
This is a complaint.
Yes, it was Sunset Drive. There is somebody that lives on that road that 13 inches of grass, I start getting phone calls. So as you can see that with the related cases, and it was significant. And as I've stated to the board before, that property was, the Brazilian pepper trees became an issue because we actually on patrol had caught some kids back in the trees smoking marijuana. So it's another one of those properties. If the trees weren't there, the kids wouldn't be on it doing it. So here we are.
If you would, Bobby, post that into evidence, please, when you get them all.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions as reference as far as the city's statement, ma'am? No?
No.
Then you could go ahead and present your case.
Okay. I know that my mother had got some calls in the past before, and she had complied to each one of those at each time that, you know, they had got a letter. So this time, she had left around June 10th to go out of the country to Greece with my father. And we had received the letter on June 29th. And because of the fact she wasn't here, she wasn't able to, get the company out to do it all at one time, because we got several estimates and they were all around $10,000. So I don't have any access to her account, so really I was paying somebody to do it, to get the job done, and there was like a side job for them, so they're continuing to get it done. The only thing is he needs a little bit more time. So that's what really I was here to ask for, if we can get a little bit more time, or if my mother is coming back October 6th. So I don't know if it would be all right until then, so she can get a company to come out and do it all at once, or whatever you would like. But if like you could do at least 6 weeks, or whatever you guys think is right.
Okay. Does anybody on the board have any questions from the city? Or does anyone on the board have any questions for the violator?
I have a question for the city.
All right, sir.
I just want to make sure I understand, officer. These three properties are adjacent, or how are they owned that we have three different parties cited?
I don't know if you're familiar with Sunset Drive.
I'm not.
Okay. There are 3 vacant lots on the south side of Sunset Drive, just east of Riverside. The corner lot is the lady here, her mother's, and then the second parcel next to it is our next case, and the third parcel is the last case. And in fairness, I got the one complaint, and the other 2 properties had the same issue, so that's why all 3 cases
Okay,
are
but it's
presented.
3 separate ownerships.
Correct. 3 separate ownerships.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the city? Any questions for the violator?
I just have one.
Go ahead.
Do you live locally?
Yes.
Okay.
And you feel that you're saying maybe 5-6 weeks you should have the biggest majority or all of it taken care of?
Well, right now, most of it is done.
Okay.
Officer Gasson passed by and seen it. So I'm hoping, because we had a lot of rain too, and the people couldn't go out there. I don't know if, you were here recently. And so that was most of the reason why most of it didn't get done. But like I said, they also have a different job, so they'll be going. I told them the time frame that we might be given.
Okay.
So if not, my mother's coming back October 6th, and I know, right away she would have it done. Right now I'm working to get it done.
Okay. Closing statement, sir?
I have no closing statements. I think it's
Do you
self-explanatory.
have a closing statement, ma'am?
Nope.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll be happy to make. This is still, it's not in compliance.
Not at this point.
Okay. Okay, I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in the law, that at the time of the alleged violations, sections 8-22, 8-40, 8-52, 12-1, and 369.251 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs were in force and effect at the time of the... Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong one.
The correct one.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute. Aren't we doing this to establish?
No, ma'am. This,
No.
Oh,
no,
God,
we are
I
not
am so
doing this to
sorry.
establish, no.
I
No,
apologize.
first one.
Okay. Okay, can we, do I need to start all over? Okay, I will.
Yes.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in law, that at the time of the alleged violations, sections 8-22, 8-40, 8-52, 12-1, and 369.251 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs were enforced. The respondent has until the 12th of October of 2016 to come into compliance with the code sections, or a fine of $100 per day shall be imposed for each day thereafter the respondent remains in violation of the said code sections.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
All those trees didn't grow there in 2 months or 2 weeks. It's been overgrown a long time, that whole corner. I think your motion is good.
That's,
Giving them the time they think they need to get it.
yeah, but you're right, it didn't happen overnight, and
I'm sorry, I thought I talked loud enough. All those trees didn't grow overnight. They took months, if not years, to get there on all those lots we're about to face here. I can see this coming back in another 6 months or another year. I can see it. We've had it before. So I think the motion's good. We're giving them enough time. They requested enough time to do it. And you're very nice. You're being very nice. That's my only comment. Thank you.
Well, I have a comment going along that same way. We are being lenient, giving the defendant till the 12th of October 2016. But do you feel $100 is kind of steep?
Nope.
No? Okay. So we have a motion and we have a second that October 12th, 2016, $100 a day fine thereafter. Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Allen?
yes.
Mr. Charrier?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Ms. Vaquesi?
Yes.
Mr. DeMossis?
Yes.
Mr. Sobolewski?
No.
Carried.
Thank you, ma'am. Next case is case number 7. Again, a vacant lot on Sunset Drive. Is there anyone here representing this property? Okay, officer.
Case number 16-8000269. This is the middle vacant lot on Sunset Drive, parcel number 112715-87786-016-0030. The owner is Mario Cajamarca. The packet going around is going to consist of numerous exhibits. On June 29th of 16, the lot was overgrown, numerous Brazilian pepper trees on the property. I took photographs. There's also numerous priors on the property, which are attached under exhibit number 7, the administrative documents, which shows the related cases. And so moving forward, so the board understands the property is currently in compliance, so I'm moving forward to have that property established as a repeat violator moving forward. So on June 30th, the notice of violation was issued, was mailed first class, return receipt requested. We did receive the return receipt, exhibits number 2 and 3. On July 22nd, I re-inspected the property, and at this point it was in compliance, and I actually met with the property owner. I've met with him about 3 times, and he's had, he got on it as soon as he got the notice and was taking care of the property. I did explain to him that I'm still moving forward with the case to go before the board to be established because of the long-standing history, and as the board's already stated, in this circumstance, you wouldn't be surprised if it's gonna be before the board again in 6 months. So, on July 26th, the notice of hearing was issued and it was mailed first class, return receipt requested. I didn't get a return receipt at that time, but I'd been speaking with the property owner. That's exhibit number 4 and 5. All the notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Tax Collector and Property Appraisers databases. On July 28th, I posted the property exhibit number 6. And then, as I stated previously, the administrative documents are exhibit number 7, which include the related cases page, which shows priors, and my summary notes. At the time, July 22nd, that's when I put it into compliance. He was in violation of 822, the accumulation of trash and debris on the private property, 840, 852, 12-1, which is the state misdemeanor reference to 369-251 for the Brazilian pepper trees. That's all I have at this point. That's my notice. That's showing that I posted the property.
Oh, there's more.
Bobby, Jerry wants to know if you'll accept those.
Yes, I do.
You wanna know?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I will accept these, only because you asked so kindly.
Are there any questions from the board as far as to the city is concerned? Would someone like to make a I have one question.
Yes, sir.
I just thought about that. I wrote a note. You had once mentioned halfway through your presentation, are we establishing this case or are we fining?
You're establishing, it's in compliance. and
It's
I-
in
I want it
compliance now.
established for future violations.
But we're gonna establish it.
Correct, sir.
Okay,
I will make a motion.
okay.
I move that based on testimony, evidence, facts presented, and the law, that at the time of the alleged violations of section 8-22, 8-40, 8-52, 12-1, 369.251 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs were in force and effect. At the time of the notice of violation, respondents were in violation of said code. However, they are now in compliance.
Second.
Is there any discussion in reference to the motion? Did we have a vote, please, Bobby?
I have one quick comment.
Yes, sir?
Thank you for this.
You're welcome.
This is finding them in violation to establish is wonderful here. Now it makes me feel better about that whole strip down there. Go ahead, thank you.
Bobby?
Miss Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Charrier?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes,
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Demasis?
Yes.
Mr. Swoleski?
Yes.
Your motion carries.
Case number 8, again, vacant lot on Sunset Drive. Is there anyone, okay, if you would, please, ma'am, come up, give us your name and address, please.
Tina Dovelos, 1832 Clearbrook Drive, Clearwater, Florida, 33760.
Thank you. Go ahead, officer.
This is case number 16-800-00270. This is another vacant lot on Sunset Drive. This is the eastern vacant lot of the three that we've presented. It's parcel number 11271587878601600040. Property owners are Tina and Paniotis Develos. And we have to find the packet, so give us just a second. All this new paperwork, we have to find it.
Okay, which one for me?
Do you have any objections, ma'am, of this paperwork coming into evidence?
I can't see that small, so I guess not, whatever they have, no, I'm not objecting.
Okay.
Initially, my case started on June 29th of this year. As stated before, the initial complaint was the lot was overgrown and there were numerous Brazilian pepper trees on the property. Initially, I was moving forward, to simplify this case, I was moving to establish it as well, but it is not currently in compliance, so we're moving forward with a property not in compliance. Exhibit number 1 is going to be the photographs that I took the first time on June 29th. On June 30th, we mailed the notice of violation via first class with a return receipt. We did get back a return receipt. That's exhibit number 2 and 3. On July 26th, I conducted a reinspection. The work was had already started. It was in progress, but it was not yet in compliance. Also on June 26th, we issued the notice of hearing, mailed first class, return receipt requested, and a certified return receipt was also received, exhibits number 4 and 5. All the notices were mailed to the listed property owner as determined by the Pinellas County Tax Collector and Pinellas County Property Appraisers databases. I've spoke to the property owners a couple of times and regarding the property. On July 28th, it was posted, which is exhibit number 6, and I conducted a reinspection yesterday. The work is in progress. It's not yet in compliance. It's more than half done, and probably like about 60% done. And photographs were taken of that. That's exhibit number 7. And again, exhibit number 8 is my prior related cases, as there were numerous ones on this property, and my summary notes from our case system. Find the property in violation of City Codes 822, which is the accumulation of trash and debris on the private property, 840, which is the duty and maintenance of private property, 852, the nuisance prohibitions, Ordinance 12-1 referencing state statute 369, 251 regarding invasive species, Brazilian pepper trees. And I have nothing further at this time. And just for the, I kind of retract my, I have nothing further. I've spoke to the property owners. They're in kind of the same situation where they just need a little bit more time. So primarily that she advised us, that was her reason for being here, was to approach the board about obtaining more time because it is a work in progress.
If you would, Bobby, put those in evidence.
Yes.
Do you have any questions at this time, ma'am, in reference to what the city stated?
Questions, no.
Okay. Does anybody on the board have any questions for the city?
Yeah, I have a question. Are you still, is it still your intention that you want this established, or is it changed?
It's currently not in compliance, so it can't be established until it's in compliance, and then based on
I
when
see.
they're in
All right,
compliance.
thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Is there any questions on the board for the defendant?
How long have you owned the property?
I owned it since 1989.
Okay.
This time, ma'am, would you like to make a presentation?
Sure. I owned it since 1989, and we've always tried to take care of it. When the letters started coming, you know, the first violation started coming, it was with the inspector before Cindy. I don't know why her name stuck to my mind. This was the inspector before Cindy. And, you know, after a few violations, I mean, I always had somebody to trim it and mow it and whatever else. And I was at work one day and I got really upset. We lived in New York, so I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what do you do? How do you tell me it's overgrown? I says, do you go out with a ruler? He goes, yes, that's exactly what I do. I go out with the ruler and I measure it, and yours is overgrown, you know, like it's 12 inches, yours is a couple of inches over that. Okay, so call up my guy. Well, it's been raining, so of course the grass grows more, and okay. But I've always, and then one time he's like, okay, you have to get it 30 feet in, 15 feet on the sides, 30 feet. I had that done. Everything that the city asked, I did. So last year, I got another letter. So I wasn't in the country. My cousin got somebody, and he cleared a third of the lot. The whole front, he cleared a third of the lot. Now here we are again. I didn't know what Brazilian peppers were. I don't know how they got here. How did they get into Tarpon? They're not native, so how did they come here? So now they're here, and they are on my property, and they are huge. I just saw them. The person said to me, this is what it is, and they're like 30 feet high, and it's a jungle. Anyway, so we're trying to find somebody that I could afford, because I can't afford to have it cleared. The whole thing, it has to go. The Brazilian peppers have to go. It seems that it's all Brazilian peppers, and I can't afford it. So I have to find somebody that can do it cheaply, that can do it around his other work, can do it around the rain, can do it whatever. So now, officer, it's more than 60 done. There's about maybe 40 feet left on the left corner. That's it. Everything else he has literally, I rented him a bobcat for the weekend. He was supposed to be done. And the reason why he didn't finish this past weekend is because he saw rattlers. He has one in his freezer, he tells me. He was swarmed on Sunday. He was swarmed. He's like, I couldn't work anymore. It was so bad. Rattlers were coming out. He's like, I left. So it's not done, but there's about 40 feet by 30 feet or whatever. So say 40 by 50 feet left. I have a double property. So he has pulled everything out. It is all gone. There's a pile of debris now that he's working on trying to get rid of. I spoke to him today again. He said he had the next door people, the one right before me, they were there today with a bulldozer. So he pushed his debris off the sidewalk and he blowed everything. He's like, it's all clean. And he's working with them, and he's working with a friend to get a container out there and the bulldozer to pick it up and put it in the container and get rid of it. So he needs to do that, and he needs to get another bobcat in, which I can't afford it. So now I'm telling him, I need months to be able to afford to give you another bobcat. What I want you to do is go in with your chainsaws and just cut the Brazilian peppers off. He's like, they snap, they swing, they this, they that, it's dangerous. I'm like, I don't care, cut them. He says, but they're intertwined, so I can't bring them down if I don't have the grappler from the bobcat. So now I said, well, cut them. Winter's gonna come, they're gonna die, they'll just be swinging there. I don't know what to do. I need time so I could raise some money to get the rest of it done. That's my issue right now.
Okay.
So it's not that I don't want to, and I have it on sale. And I had 2 contracts on sale, and I can't sell it because at the last minute they decide they want a sewer. I don't have a sewer running. There's no sewer line running up there. So I lost both contracts, one the day before closing and the other one 4 days before closing. That's how close I've come to sell this property, and it's not selling. So this is my situation. Of course, if I had money, I wouldn't be selling it, but I have to sell it. So I need time to raise the funds to be able, and the rains to stop, and this man to do what he has to do.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, do we have any questions for the city, or do we have any questions for the defendant?
I have a question for the alleged violator. How much time do you need?
I have told him that I was going to pay him monthly. So I need monthly to be able to raise more money to bring in a bobcat, to bring down that small area of space that the fences are around and they hinder him and the trees are in the way and he can't get the bobcat in, and it's crazy, but that's nothing. So I would need, for me to be able to pay him and get another bobcat in, I would need 3 months.
How much? I'm sorry?
3 months.
3 months.
But the debris will be off of it within, I don't know, within a couple of weeks. It depends what the next door, when they bring the bulldozer back or whatever. Trying to put that together.
Any other questions?
This person, this man you keep referring to, how long have you had that person under employ?
This person, which is, he does whatever he does. I guess you know him better than I do. He did the last time, he had cleared it up in September, October of last year. I don't know, I wasn't here, so I don't know exactly when he cleaned the third of the property. And now, as soon as I got the letter, I was trying to find, but the estimates are so crazy. So I contacted my cousin, and he contacted him, and I contacted him. So it was, as soon as I got that letter, things were starting to, and he gave me the best possible price. And I said, look, I still need to pay you in monthly installments. I can't afford it. So he said, okay. So he works me into his schedule again. And because of the rains, I was trying to get him the bobcat, and the rains and this and that. And, then I would go to rent it, and they're like, we have no more bobcats for this weekend, and you have to wait for next weekend. Anyway, so I finally got the bobcat this past weekend, and he was supposed to have finished. He said to me, I'll finish it this weekend, 2 days with the bobcat, I'll be done. But there is one corner left. There is just a corner left. I have the photos. He pulls everything out. He cleaned it. I mean, the space looks great. There's no Brazilian peppers on it except that particular corner, which is, I'm telling you, like 40 feet by, 40 by 40, 40 by 30. That's what's left.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
May I ask Officer
Yes.
Gassett a question? This is basically the same as all of them are basically the same, except one wasn't established, right?
Correct. There's 2 that were not in
None.
compliance and only one that you guys established. Correct.
Okay, I'm gonna close the public portion of the hearings at this time. Is there any discussion among the board before we ask for a motion?
I'm inclined to give them 3 months.
Okay.
As long as they invite me to Thanksgiving dinner.
Well, there you go.
That's 3 months.
You got it. The only thing is we're Greek, and
I'm
there's no
joking.
turkey. There's like,
You're gonna have to have lamb. Gonna have to have lamb.
I'm sorry I made the,
Okay, I don't agree with that, but can I make a motion?
Just,
I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in law that the time of the alleged violations, sections 8-22, 8-40, 8-52, 12-1, and the invasion of non-native plants, 369.251 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs were enforced. The respondent has until the 12th day of October 2016 to come into compliance with the code section, or the fine of $100 per day shall be imposed for each day thereafter that respondents remains in violation of said code sections.
Second.
Is there any discussion on this motion?
I'd still like to see more time. I was thinking November 22nd.
I agree with Becky's, saying, because again, these things, they've owned the property for, what, 20-some years?
Yeah.
And it's like they're surprised every time they get notice that there's a violation going on. And I just,
Basically, we
just
did that for the first one.
maybe talk to the people next door and find out who they're getting to clean it up.
Any other discussion on this motion?
I would only suggest that perhaps we could make a compromise and split the difference between the October 12th date, which I don't think is unreasonable, and the other suggestion that it be sometime in November, and possibly extend it by a couple of weeks, make it October 31st, and that gives two and a half months, and I think that's more than enough. Although if the majority don't agree, I don't have a problem with October 12th, but I think we could, in good conscience, make it a little bit more time, and possibly we might want to discuss reducing the fine from 100 to 50. That was the first thing that came to my mind, but then when I realized how many times this situation has been in front of us, perhaps 100 is sufficient. So my only concern, Ms. Archer, is that perhaps we could make it a little bit more time and make it the 31st instead of the 12th. That's my only suggestion.
I'm a little creeped out by the rattlesnakes. I just think I wouldn't want to live next door to all that overgrown stuff.
It looks like there's 3 properties, and if I'm out of order, you tell me, Mr. Trask, that all basically had the same problem, and for the first one, we only gave them till October 12th with that fine, and to me, it's only reasonable to do the same thing for the second one. We can make a vote, doesn't pass, we can change it.
Okay. Any other, I'm sorry, ma'am, but we closed the public section, and you're not allowed to
Yeah,
make
it's
any
a shame
comment.
because,
So,
you know, there should be
is
some
there any other
conversation going
discussion?
on.
Well, it's been called for a vote, so.
All right, let's go ahead and do a vote here, Bob.
All right. Mrs. Allen?
I guess point of order, are we voting for the first motion of having it for three?
We are voting for the 12th of October, 2016, $100 per day thereafter. Fine.
Was there a second motion that was,
Well, we're voting on this
Okay,
one
the first
first,
motion,
and then
then,
there was
no.
a couple other people discussing extending it and lowering the fine, but right now we are voting on $100 per day after the 12th of October.
no?
All right. Mr. Sherry?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
Yes?
Mr. DeMassis?
Yes.
Mr. Solesky?
Yes,
Your motion carries.
See ya.
thank you so much, ma'am.
Can I just say something? Just quickly. I've lived in New York. I've been down here for 10 years. I live in Clearwater. It's not the easiest thing to come up all the time. I have all my bills here that I've paid somebody always to go there twice a week. So when you pay somebody to go there twice a week and mow and cut and do what he has to do, then you trust that person does his job. It got overgrown, nobody has told me anything. So every time I get a letter, I call up the person, what's going on? Oh, don't worry, I took care of it, I fixed it, it's done. So, and then somebody comes in front of you and says, I don't have any money, and you slap them with $100 a day, Shame on you. Shame on you. It will get done because my person only wanted a month to clean this up. I asked for the 3 because of money situation. He will get it done within a month though. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Next on is case number 9. Again, another vacant lot on Gulf Road. Is there anybody here representing that property? All right.
This case, 1680000282, and the next case, 283, they're adjoining parcels owned by the same person. So it looks like one big lot, but they're 2 vacant lots owned by the same person. So I don't know if the board wants me to present them separately. The testimony is going to be identical for both properties.
He can testify as to them both at the same time. If you want him to do that, cut the time, but more than likely, you'll have 2 sets of documents, right?
We do have 2 sets of documents,
So you
correct?
need 2 separate motions then after you hear the testimony?
Well, okay, if you want to combine them, we'll do it that way, but then we will have to have 2 separate motions at the end of his testimony. One for the property for case number 9, and then the other one for the property on case number 10.
Okay, so case number 9 is case number 1680000282. It's a vacant lot on Gulf Road. The parcel number for that one is 142715430740010040. It doesn't have a city property address. Case number 10 is case number 283, 16-80000283. Parcel number is the same with the exception of the N being 0030. As I stated before, both properties are owned by Ms. Samus. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce her first name. All the inspections were conducted at the same time on July 8th of this year. Got a report of the lot being overgrown, and there were some Brazilian pepper trees, some trash and debris on the property. At this point, we're moving forward to the board to establish both of these properties. They are currently in compliance. Both of them have had 6 priors in the last 4 years. That's going to be exhibit number 1 from both packets. On July 8th, we issued a notice of violation and the notice of hearing and sent both via return receipt request or via certified mail. That's exhibits number 2, 3, and 4. All the notices for both cases were sent to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Tax Collector and the Property Appraiser's database. Both of the return receipts were returned unclaimed. I've had no contact in any way with the owner, but as I stated, it is currently in compliance as of July 22nd when I conducted the reinspection. So I'm moving forward to the board to establish both of these properties. On July 28th of this year, I posted the properties, which is exhibit number 5, and exhibit number 6 of the packets is going to be the prior related cases and my summary notes from both of the incidents. I move to the board to have it established for violation of City Codes 8-40, 8-52, 12-1, and Florida State Statute 369.251, and also 13302, which covers vines growing into and suffocating the natural or the non-invasive trees on the property. So it's the failure of the property owner to maintain and cut down the vines to prevent damage to existing trees. And that's all I have on both of those cases.
Those of the board that have already seen the pictures and the evidence, is there any questions from the board to Officer Gaston in reference to this case?
Officer,
Yes, sir.
I noticed that one of the addresses was in London, and Canadian and Canada was the other one, I think. Can you verify that? On 282, I wasn't sure, but 283, I believe, was London?
London, Ontario. It's a town.
Ontario.
Ontario.
Okay,
And
okay.
they received it because, as I stated, they did mow and take care of all the violations to put it into compliance. So they just chose not to accept the return receipt.
So my question is there a property management company involved here with these
I
properties?
do not believe so. And it is listed for sale.
What exactly is it? Where exactly is this?
It's the big empty lots. Whose house is it? Ray is Steve Michio's house?
Yes.
It's just a little bit west of it. It's those big lots
Yes.
right there on the south side of the road.
Okay.
You would please, Bobby, enter those into evidence.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion as far as the board is concerned? Would somebody like to make a motion on case number, last three numbers is 282?
Yeah, I
as
will.
far as establishing?
I will. I move based on testimony, evidence, facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violations of section 8-40, 8-52, 12-1, 369.251, 133.02 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs were in full force and effect. At the time of the notice of violations, the respondents were in violation of said code sections. However, they are now in compliance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Bobby, can we have a roll call vote on this one, please?
Yes, sir. Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Charrier?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Ms. Vaquesi?
Yes.
Mr. DeMasis?
Yes.
Mr. Saprowski?
Yes.
Motion carried, sir.
Now, would somebody like to make a motion in reference to case number 16? Last three numbers is 283.
I will do that.
All right, sir?
I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violations of sections 8-40, 8-52, 12-1, 369.251, 133.02 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs were in full force and effect. At the time of the notice of violation, the respondents were in violation of said code sections. However, they are now in compliance.
Second.
Have a second. Board, is there any discussion on this motion?
Is this the motion that is to establish?
Yes.
Yes.
Then I don't, do we need to say that in the motion that is
No.
to okay, I'm sorry, just wondered.
I didn't write the motion. I don't know who wrote it, but thank you, whoever did.
I did.
Thank you.
Could we have a vote, please? A roll call vote? No? Okay, I guess we can.
I was wondering, in this reference, I have 6 exhibits that I was supposed to have. Am I gonna have any exhibits for this one?
Did they all come?
Evidence?
We
gave
did them
you-
both, so they might be mixed together
Oh, okay. Thank you.
from the previous date.
Okay, that's
If you
fine.
have 12, we know where the other 6 are.
Weekend?
To give you something extra to do.
That's
Bobby.
fine. I'll do that in a little bit, don't worry. We got plenty of time. Yes, sir, we'll get your roll call. Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Charrier?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Ms. Vaquesi?
Yes.
Mr. Demossis?
Yes.
Mr. Sableski?
Yes.
Your motion carries. I'll sort through the picture.
You know, the problem is these people all live out of town. And
Well, at least these last two, they're maintaining they're just being established now. So,
yeah.
okay, case number 11, it's in reference to a property at 1717 Mandalay, another vacant lot. Do we have anybody in attendance for this? Go ahead, officer.
Case number 16, 800-00292 is 1717 Mandalay Drive. Property owner is listed as Sik Hing Lee. Originally got a complaint about the property being overgrown and partially in construction. This address is a little bit east of the prior one on Mandalay that the lady was here for. It's all in the same block. We got the report of it being overgrown in a partial state of construction. Basically, as you'll see in the photos, it's a number of pilings that are built. It's been in this state for numerous years. They've never built the house on top of the pilings. I took photographs, and there was also some tree debris on the property. That's exhibit number 1. Section D of our ordinance 840 says left for an unreasonably long periods of time in a state of partial construction. That's the part of 840 that I'm citing is the fact that the property, or it's obviously in a state of not in construction. There's numerous prior complaints on the property due to it being overgrown, but as it's not in compliance at this point, so I'm not trying to establish it. It's not in compliance, so I'm moving forward with the board case. On July 16th, notice of violation and a notice of hearing were issued and mailed via first class and a certified return receipt. We have not received a return receipt from those mailings. That's going to be exhibits number 3, 4, and 5. All notices were mailed to the listed property owner according to the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collectors database, and I have had no contact with the property owner whatsoever. On July 28th of this year, I posted the property. That would be exhibit number 6. And August 17th of this year, the pilings are still there. The grass was cut in front of the pilings, but not in between them and not on the side of them, so it is not mowed yet. It's half mowed. So the whole lot still needs to be mowed. Photographs were taken. That's photograph or exhibit number 7. And then exhibit number 8 are the related prior cases and my summary notes from the case. So at this point, I'm moving before the board for violation of 8-40, duty of maintenance of private property, which also encompasses the partially constructed house, and 852, which is a nuisance prohibitions on the property.
You're considering partially constructed house as far as the pilings are concerned?
Based on what my interpretation of the ordinance, which states it's been in the course of construction 3 years or more, it's fairly apparent that that's a course of construction. There are no valid permits currently. The last permits, I want to say, were somewhere around 2002.
Okay. And you said that we are looking at a violation.
The violation, it is not in compliance.
Okay, because, all right.
So 840 encompasses 2 parts, the mowing of the lawn and the building of the house.
Okay. Because your exhibit 2 said something in reference to the numerous prior complaints, property is going to the code board to be established.
That was my original intent for my notes.
But now we're going with a violation.
Correct, because it's not in compliance at this point.
Okay.
And both of the, well, this one, both of them on Mandalay are driven by citizen complaints from neighbors that live in the neighborhood, so it's not a, it's another non-pro, I didn't do this proactively.
You would please, Bobby, put those in evidence?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Is there any questions of the board for Officer Gaston? Any questions or discussion among the board?
Yeah,
Yes, sir?
I don't have a clue what kind of fine.
That's why we normally start with a motion. You get a motion on the floor, and then you would discuss it.
Yes.
I'll make a motion.
All right, would you like to make a
That's
motion,
not a problem,
please?
yeah. I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in law, that at the time of the alleged violations of section 8-40 and 8-52 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs were enforced. The respondent has until September 15th, 2016 to come into compliance with code sections, or a fine of $100 a day shall be imposed for each day thereafter that respondent remain in violation of said code section.
Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Is there any discussion on that motion?
Yeah, I think we're being very liberal with this. This has been around for a while now, and as we're giving time to others for various reasons, I think we need to get on the ball with this. I'd like to see this before the board again prior to our meeting next month. So if anything, I'd like to change that date to the 5th September. And I know that seems short, but nobody's getting these letters anyway. You know, I think we need to act on it.
And I would be happy to amend my motion.
All right, sir.
I will amend my motion to compliance date of September 5th, 2016.
Do we have a second on September?
Fifth.
Pardon me, sir?
For,
I don't know what that
well,
means.
I don't know, I was looking at Mr. Trask. We have to do a minimum of 10 days' notice,
Not very long.
for it to come back as a notice of hearing, a minimum of 10 days. So just for the board's understanding, September 5th, and the next board hearing is September 8th. So the only way we can do that is we would have to do it, I think, around August 21st-ish, in order to give them proper notice and due process.
Well, today's the 18th, so that's not gonna work.
It's pushing it to make it to the next code board, is what I'm trying to say, that's all.
Your call.
It won't help to, I'll withdraw my amendment of the motion.
Gonna keep it on the 15th?
Keep it on the 15th
Keep it
then?
on the 15th.
Okay, so in front of the board right now, we have a motion that it'll come into compliance by September 15th, 2016, or a $100 per day fine will be levied. And we do have a second already on file. So Bobby, if you would, please, could I have a roll call? I can't.
Miss Allen?
Yes.
Cherrier?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Creamer?
Yes.
Ms. Vaquesi?
Yes.
Mr. DeMossis?
Yes.
Mr. Sobleski?
Yes.
Please, thank you.
Do you think the neighbor is mowing the front
Obviously,
of
I
that?
like
I have no idea, man. No idea what's
We
going on.
tried. You made a good point.
I know we've sent notices before.
Okay, as far as affidavits of non-compliant, before we start, I have one question. Case number 13, last three numbers is 065 on 505 Mears Boulevard.
Yes, sir?
Is that the one that was brought up a couple of months ago in reference to bricks and cars and
Forklifts
that's the same one?
Yes, and he, just on a side note, he called today, he wants me to re-inspect, he says he's in compliance. So I haven't had an opportunity to go out and inspect it yet.
Very tricky. Okay, thank you.
Welcome, I'll be right back, I have to step out.
Take your time.
Do it now.
No, he doesn't have to do it now, no. Would somebody like to make,
I'll move, I'll do it as usual.
you do it as usual.
I move that we accept the affidavits of non-compliance in case 168000056, case 168000065, case 16-80000121, case 16-80000147. That's it.
And then, do we have anybody in the audience in reference to these cases of non-compliance? Okay, second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Can somebody want to make a motion in reference to affidavits of compliance, and is there anybody here representing that? No. You're just here. Okay, good.
I move that affidavits of compliance be accepted in case 13-80000913, case 16-80000029, case 16-8000000179, case 16-80000291.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of accepting, say aye. Opposed? Okay, next order of business is to okay the minutes from July 14th, 2016. Has everybody had a chance to review them? Do I have a motion to accept the
Motion
minutes?
to accept the minutes for
Okay, we have a motion to accept the minutes. All in favor? No, yeah, we had a second. Yes.
Okay, I didn't hear it, I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that motion carried also. All right, it is now 3:40. I'm calling the Code Enforcement Board, Tarpon Springs, for August.
Is there a chance for comments, please?
Well, I'm not closing it, I'm closing the formal portion.
Oh, okay.
Closed. Now, I would like to put our newest board member on the spot and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you, or why you decided to become on the Code Enforcement Board, please.
My name is Linda Allen. I'm a small business owner. I have a trucking business. And I've actually just relocated to Florida in the last 2 years. But I'd like to get involved with my community. I'd like to know who my neighbors are. I'd like to know how my city is run. And so I went through the Citizens Academy. And from there, decided to take the next step and try to serve wherever I was needed in my city.
Thank you. Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Now, we have any other comments?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. We were told here in front of this board today that somebody said, shame on us.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you something, okay? I take offense at that.
Yes.
Okay, we're here to do a job for the city of Tarpon Springs. And if there's any shame, perhaps the shame would rest on a property owner that does not maintain her property in such a way as to make it a better city for all of us. And I am not gonna listen to those kind of comments addressed to this board without making my own comment. And I've had all I could do to wait until this moment to bring that to the attention and to go on record as saying that I found that to be an offensive comment, and especially for the people that are newer to the board, don't take that to heart, okay? I was a hearing officer in my former career before I retired. I handled 4,500 cases, and every once in a while you'd get somebody that wanted to make those kind of remarks. And you just let them go off your back. We're here to do a job, and since I've been familiar with this board, I think the job is well done. And I think that everybody here, although we don't necessarily all agree, we're all trying to do the same thing, and that's for the betterment of the community that we live in. So don't feel any shame. If there was any shame, the shame should have been on her.
Here, here.
Rolls off
Very
your back.
good.
I think Officer Gasson has something against Brazilian pepper trees.
Yeah, really. And vacant lots.
He keeps, and vacant lots. No, I'm kidding you, of course.
No, that's fine.
Because I think
And
it's
just so
wonderful to get rid of them.
The board does understand, there's a state statute for them, and I don't, as I stated, I don't proactively hunt these down, but they're usually either complaint-driven, or we start establishing problems with vagrants or kids back in the bushes doing things. And then this is our approach to be able to rectify that problem and either relocate it out of our city, or at least it's not that issue in our neighborhoods. So that's primarily why. And then me only doing this for a year and a half, when I started, I didn't know what a Brazilian pepper tree was, but thanks to Mr. Dobbins, he's pointed out what they are and the evils behind them. And now you guys get to experience what I experienced a little bit.
You know, the amazing thing of that statement was that my man was scared off by rattlers. Well, geez, rattlers go around, hide bushes, hide trees, hide grass. If you get rid of them, you're not going to have rattlers.
Right.
So that set it off to me right there.
And we did no different to her than we did on several other cases today.
And the last thing before you guys get up, I know we changed the procedure today. Is that seem to work, or does anybody have any suggestions as far as?
I think we should change it again next month.
If you guys suggest it, we will. And the reason being is, just so you understand too, is so that everything's put into evidence. So if any of these cases are appealed, it's a review of the documentation. If that documentation doesn't exist, it's very difficult to have an accurate appeal. So that's the reason why it's all there, and I'm trying to give you guys as much of a picture as I possibly can.
My only question is between you and you, Mr. Trett. I mean, I'm guilty, because you give me a stack of papers. I was not reading every page and all that. You're giving us this evidence. Are you expecting us to know? Or I'm looking at this is Exhibit 1. Okay, there's the Exhibit 2. This paper is saying this is what we sent certified mail, and I'm checking that. But I'm not reading everything. Am I supposed to legally, since it's going to be, or
We'd be
what
here
are we
forever.
required to do?
Read it. That's evidence, and so you're making your case based upon the testimony and evidence that's presented. You're hearing the testimony, that's the documentary evidence, and you should read it. And if it takes you a little bit longer to read it, to scan it, then we'll slow down. But
Okay,
the
then.
officer is doing exactly what we'd want to do to perfect the city's case and protect us from any type of appeal, or losing an appeal. is
And
really
by
what
us
we're
on the
doing.
board, we are required or expected to know the material and scan it and read.
You're expected to read the testimony and,
Okay.
or hear the testimony and read the evidence.
All right, thank you, sir. So,
This is what happens when you
Did-
get a cop going before a board rather than a
does
civilian.
everybody on the board understand that now? It's gonna take us a little bit longer, but we are going to have to do more than just, oh, okay, here, and pass it on.
It doesn't matter if it takes a little longer, but after 4 o'clock, I bring in cocktails. So
Oh, well, if I would've known that, we can talk for another 15 minutes, please. Yeah,
What's the chance of getting some of that material ahead of time then?
yeah.
Well, the problem that we have then is that we have a city employee sitting in front of a copy machine, doing it hour after hour. And then in addition to that, there's always the argument that that the documents that you received weren't the same documents that
We're presenting.
Ms. Allen's received or were presented here. And so we can avoid that by having just the originals, the best evidence, the originals coming down here one at a time. So,
Plus, if
it's
the,
my suggestion just to receive it here at the meeting. It may take us just a little bit longer, but I think that that's the best approach.
plus the violator has an option of saying, no, I don't want that going in, or this isn't right, or whatever. So we would have to more or less do it one-on-one at the present.
Either that, or you just gotta, you know, if there's an objection and it's sustained by you, you basically have to erase that from your mind because you read it earlier in the week when you got
Yes.
your packet.
Right,
So-
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any other comments? Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Go ahead.
I just wanted to thank Officer Gasson. I think he's doing a real good job.
Thank you.
Yes, he is.
I'm trying.
Absolutely.
Yes. Anything else?
Can we make those papers that we get out of Brazilian pepper trees?
Our luck could probably start growing out of the trash.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I guess now it's officially adjourned.
Get that pencil.
Taking the microphones down, Bobby? No, sir. I don't think so. No? I'm not gonna let anybody. Are we taking the microphones down?
Yeah. We're gonna take them
Yeah, we're taking them down, Bobby. The man upstairs
Usually leave
says
this
talk.
here, or we take this
Do
with
what?
us, or?
I'm glad we
No, we leave all that.
Okay,
I was offended, I thought,
okay.
did that bother anybody else?
It certainly bothered me. I got a pretty thick skin, but it always bothered me until I got a chance to go on record.
Unable to hold in your temper all that time and not take an outburst like